Welcome to Lecture 1 of our 8-part scaffolded tutorial on flow matching, one of the most exciting frameworks in modern generative AI. This course is designed with a specific philosophy. We start with pure intuition and physical analogies and only add mathematics when you already understand why each formula exists. Think of it as building a house. Today, we lay the foundation of understanding. No equations, just ideas. By the end of this first lecture, you will have a clear mental picture of what generative models do, how flow matching works at a high level, and why researchers across images, proteins, video, and robotics are so excited about it. So what exactly is a generative model? Let me give you the simplest possible picture. On the left side, you have pure randomness, numbers drawn completely at random with no structure, no pattern, no meaning. Think of it as television static, or a cloud of sand grains scattered randomly on a table. On the right side, you have realistic data, a photograph of a face, a snippet of natural speech, the three-dimensional shape of a protein, something structured, something that looks like it belongs in the real world. A generative model is the thing in the middle. It is a learned transformation that takes that random noise and reshapes it into something realistic. Every time you feed in different random numbers, you get a different but equally realistic output. Think of it like a sculptor. The sculptor starts with a shapeless block of clay, which is our noise, and through a series of deliberate moves, transforms it into a beautiful statue. The sculptor has learned, through years of practice, exactly how to push and pull the material to create something meaningful. A generative model learns the same kind of transformation, but automatically, from data. Here is the first physical analogy that will anchor your understanding of flow matching throughout this entire course. I call it the moving dirt analogy. Imagine you have a big pile of sand on a beach. That pile represents your noise distribution, your starting material. It is shapeless, unstructured, just a random heap. Now imagine you want to build a sandcastle. That castle represents your data distribution, the structured thing you want to create. It has towers, walls, windows, a specific shape. The fundamental question of generative modeling is, how do you transport the sand from the pile into the castle shape? Every grain of sand in the pile needs to end up somewhere in the castle. No sand is created or destroyed. It is just rearranged. This is actually a famous problem in mathematics called optimal transport. The question is not just, can you move the sand, but what is the most efficient way to do it? If a grain of sand is already close to where it needs to go in the castle, you should not carry it to the opposite end. You want to minimize the total effort. In the language of generative modeling, the pile is your source distribution, the castle is your target distribution, and the transport plan that tells each grain where to go, that is your generative model. Keep this picture in your mind. We will keep coming back to it. Now here is the second key analogy, and this one is specific to how flow matching actually works. Think of a weather map that shows wind patterns. Imagine you are looking at a map of a large area, and at every point on that map there is a small arrow. Each arrow tells you the direction and speed of the wind at that exact location. If you placed a tiny leaf at any point on the map, that leaf would be carried along by the wind, following whatever arrows it encounters along its journey. This is exactly what a velocity field is. It is a map of arrows that covers all of space. At every location and at every moment in time, there is an arrow that says go this direction, at this speed. Now here is the key idea. Imagine that this wind map is carefully designed so that if you scatter a bunch of leaves randomly on the left side of the map, that is your noise. The wind will carry every single leaf to exactly the right place on the right side of the map. That is your data. The leaves start as a random cloud and end up arranged in a beautiful, structured pattern. That is flow matching in a nutshell. The velocity field is the wind map. The particles are your samples. And the entire job of flow matching is to learn this wind map from data, so that when you release new particles from noise, the wind carries them to realistic outputs. Now, flow matching is actually part of a bigger family. There are 4 types of time-continuous generative processes, and the paper we are studying unifies all of them. Let me just name them and give you the visual intuition. No formulas. First, flows. These are the smoothest and simplest. Each particle follows a clean, deterministic path from noise to data. If you start two identical particles at the same point, they will always end up at the same destination. Think of a calm river carrying leaves downstream. This is our main focus. Second, diffusions. These are like flows, but with added randomness. The particles still move from noise to data, but their paths are jittery and wiggly, like a leaf in a turbulent stream. This is what diffusion models like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion use. Third, discrete flows. Instead of moving smoothly through continuous space, particles jump between distinct states. Think of a letter in a word changing from one character to another. This is how flow matching handles text and DNA sequences. Fourth, continuous time Markov processes, or CTMPs. This is the most general category that includes all the others. It can handle any combination of smooth motion, randomness, and jumps. The remarkable thing, and this is a key message of the paper, is that the flow matching framework applies to all four types. The same recipe, the same training idea, just adapted to different kinds of data. We will focus on the first type, flows, but keep the others in mind as we go. Throughout all 8 lectures of this course, we are going to use the same running example to illustrate every concept. This consistency is deliberate. You will see the same transformation over and over, each time understanding it more deeply. Here it is. On the left, at time 0, we have a cloud of random points. These are drawn from a Gaussian distribution, which just means they form a roughly circular blob centered at the origin. This is our noise, our pile of sand. On the right, at time 1, we have the 2 moons shape. This is a classic dataset in machine learning, 2 interlocking crescent shapes. It is simple enough to visualize, but complex enough to be interesting. This is our data, our sandcastle. In the middle, at time 0.5, you can see something in between. The random cloud has started to organize itself, but has not yet fully resolved into the 2 moons. It is blurry, halfway there. This is the distribution morphing over time. In Lecture 1, today, this transformation is just a visual animation, dots moving from a cloud to a shape. In Lecture 2, we will overlay the mathematical trajectories. In Lecture 4, we will see the actual training process. In Lecture 5, we will run the code. Same picture, deeper understanding each time. That is the scaffolded approach. Now we get to the core blueprint of flow matching. The beautiful thing about this framework is that it boils down to just 2 steps. 2 steps to build a generative model. Step 1. Choose a probability path. This means you decide how the distribution should morph from noise to data over time. Think of it as planning the route before you start driving. You are not moving anything yet. You are just designing the journey. What should the distribution look like at time 0.1, at time 0.5, at time 0.9? Step 2. Learn the velocity field. Now you train a neural network to predict the arrows that move particles along the path you designed in Step 1. The network looks at a particle's current position and the current time and outputs a velocity. Go this direction at this speed. That is it. Design a path. Learn the velocity. The result is a model that can transform noise into data by following the learned velocity arrows. Everything else in this course is about understanding these 2 steps more deeply. What kinds of paths can we choose? How do we train the velocity efficiently? What happens when we generalize to different types of data? But the high-level recipe always stays the same. 2 steps. Let us now unpack the first step of the recipe, choosing a probability path. What exactly is a probability path? Think of a movie. A movie is just a sequence of frames, still images played one after another. Each frame shows a scene at a particular moment in time. If you pause the movie at any frame, you see a frozen snapshot. A probability path is exactly the same idea, but instead of a movie of images, it is a movie of distributions. At each moment in time between 0 and 1, you have a distribution, a picture of where all the particles are. Look at the slide. At time 0, you see our familiar Gaussian cloud, particles scattered randomly. At time 0.25, the cloud has started to shift and organize, but it is still quite blobby. At time 0.5, halfway through, you can start to see the two moon shape emerging from the cloud. At time 0.75, the moons are almost fully formed, and at time 1, you have clean, crisp two moons. The probability path is this entire film strip, not just the first or last frame, but every frame in between. It tells you what the distribution looks like at every single instant during the transformation. Designing this path is step 1 of the flow matching recipe. In later lectures, we will see that there are many possible paths, some better than others, and the choice of path has real consequences for how well the model works. Now let us unpack step 2, the velocity field. We already met this idea with the wind map analogy, but let me sharpen it. Imagine that at every single point in space, there is a tiny traffic controller holding a sign. The sign says, if you are here at this time, move this direction at this speed. That is a velocity field. It is a collection of arrows, one at every point in space, telling particles where to go. Look at the diagram. You can see arrows pointing in different directions at different locations. Some arrows are longer, meaning move fast. Some are shorter, meaning move slowly. The key thing is that they vary across space. A particle at the top of the diagram gets different instructions than a particle at the bottom. And here is the crucial detail. These arrows also change over time. The instructions at time 0.1 are different from the instructions at time 0.9. Early on, the arrows might spread particles out. Later, they guide particles to converge onto the data shape. The particles themselves are completely passive. They have no intelligence. They just follow whatever arrow they find at their current location and current time. All the intelligence is in the velocity field. If the velocity field is correct, the particles will be carried from noise to data perfectly. The job of the neural network in flow matching is to learn this velocity field from data. Given any position and any time, output the correct arrow. That is the entire training task. Now, what is the simplest possible probability path you could choose? Straight lines. Look at the diagram. Each noise point on the left is paired with a data point on the right, and the path between them is just a straight line. No curves, no detours, just the most direct route from start to finish. This is where we introduce the one and only formula in this entire lecture. At any time t between 0 and 1, the position of a particle is xt equals 1 minus t times noise plus t times data. Let me unpack that in plain language. At time 0, t is 0, so the formula gives you 1 times noise plus 0 times data. You are entirely at the noise position. At time 1, t is 1, so you get 0 times noise plus 1 times data. You are entirely at the data position. And at time 0.5, you are exactly halfway between the two, a 50-50 blend. This is called linear interpolation, and it is the simplest possible choice. You are just taking a weighted average of the start and end points, with the weight shifting from noise to data as time goes from 0 to 1. Why is this formula important? Because it is the foundation of the most common version of flow matching. The paths are straight lines, and the velocity along each path is constant. It is just the direction from noise to data. In later lectures, we will see why this particular choice has beautiful mathematical properties. But for now, just appreciate the simplicity. Straight lines, that is all you need to get started. How do we actually train this velocity field? The intuition is beautifully simple. Think of flashcards. When you study with flashcards, someone shows you a question and you try to give the correct answer. If you get it wrong, you adjust. Over thousands of cards, you learn the pattern. Training flow matching works the same way. We show the neural network a flashcard that says, here is a particle at this position, and the current time is t. What velocity should this particle have? The network makes a prediction, an arrow, a direction, and speed. Then, we compare that prediction to the correct answer. And because we chose straight line paths, the correct velocity is simply the direction from the noise point to the data point. We know where the particle started, we know where it should end up, and the correct velocity is just go from start to finish. If the network's prediction does not match the correct velocity, we adjust the network's parameters to make it closer. We repeat this millions of times, with different particles, different times, different noise data pairs. Gradually, the network learns the entire velocity field. The remarkable thing about flow matching is that this training process does not require you to actually simulate the full trajectories. You just sample random positions along straight lines and ask the network to predict the velocity at those positions. This makes training very efficient, and it is one of the key insights that sets flow matching apart from older methods. We will understand why in Lecture 4. Now comes the payoff. Once we have trained the velocity field, how do we actually generate new data? How do we sample? The process is like following a GPS. You start at a random location, that is your noise point. You ask the learned velocity field, I am here, at time 0, which direction should I go? The network gives you an arrow. You take a small step in that direction. Now you are at a slightly different position, and time has moved forward a little. You ask again, I am here now, at this new time, which direction? Another arrow, another small step. You repeat this process through many small steps, and the arrows guide you along a trajectory from noise toward data. By the time you reach time 1, you have arrived at a point that looks like it came from the real data distribution. That is your generated sample. Want another sample? Start from a different random noise point and follow the arrows again. You will get a different but equally realistic result. This is why the GPS analogy works so well. A GPS does not show you the entire route all at once. It just tells you the next turn at each intersection. Similarly, the velocity field does not give you the full trajectory up front. It just tells you the next move at each moment. But if you follow all the turns, you arrive at the right destination. In later lectures, we will learn that these small steps are actually solving an ordinary differential equation, an ODE. But you do not need to know that yet. For now, the picture is simple. Start from noise, follow the arrows, arrive at data. Let me give you a sense of why the research community is so excited about flow matching. It is not just an elegant theory. It is powering real, state-of-the-art systems across an extraordinary range of fields. Images. Stable Diffusion 3 and FLUX, two of the most powerful image generation models available today, are built on flow matching. When you type a text prompt and get a photorealistic image, that is flow matching at work. Video. Meta's Movie Gen system uses flow matching to generate entire videos, not just static images, but coherent motion over time. Proteins. This is one of the most impactful applications. Flow matching is being used to generate three-dimensional protein structures, which is critical for drug design and understanding biology. The flow operates not in pixel space, but on the geometry of molecular backbones. Speech and audio. VoiceBox and AudioBox from Meta use flow matching to generate natural-sounding speech and audio. The noise-to-data transformation happens in the space of audio spectrograms. Robotics. Flow matching is being used to learn robot policies, generating smooth motion trajectories from random initializations. And text. With discrete flow matching, the framework extends to language, where instead of moving particles through continuous space, tokens jump between discrete states. The remarkable thing is that the core algorithm is the same in every case. Choose a path, learn the velocity. What changes is the state space and the neural network architecture, not the fundamental idea. Let me be honest about what we still do not understand. Today was about building intuition, and we have achieved that. But there are important questions we deliberately left unanswered. First, what does follow the arrows actually mean mathematically? We said take small steps. But how small? How many steps? This is the domain of ordinary differential equations, and it is exactly what Lecture 2 will cover. Second, why did we choose straight-line paths? Are they the best choice? Could curved paths work better? Lecture 3 will explore the design space of probability paths and show you that this choice has real consequences. Third, how can training be so efficient? We claimed you do not need to simulate full trajectories during training, just sample random positions and predict velocities. Why does this work? The answer involves a beautiful result called the marginalization trick, which is the heart of Lecture 4. And fourth, does the learned velocity field actually generate the correct distribution? How can we be sure that following the learned arrows leads to data, not to garbage? This guarantee is what makes flow matching a rigorous framework, not just a heuristic. On the right of this slide, you can see our course roadmap. We are here, at Lecture 1. Each subsequent lecture adds a layer of understanding. By Lecture 5, you will be able to implement flow matching from scratch. By Lecture 8, you will understand how it connects to diffusion models and extends to any kind of data. Thank you for joining this first lecture. In Lecture 2, we will give Follow the Arrows a precise mathematical meaning through neural ODEs. See you there.